Welcome to the Education Marketing Leader podcast with Chris Rapozo. If you're looking to dive into the latest industry insights, draw inspiration from education success stories, or just want to sharpen your marketing skills, you're in the right place. Here, we bring you a diverse range of voices from experts and leaders in the field, offering you a unique blend of professional development and practical strategies. Whether you want to understand your audience better, stay updated with the latest tech trends in marketing, or expand your professional network, we've got you covered. So while you're driving on your morning commute or winding down after a busy day, let's explore the dynamic world of education marketing together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Education Marketing Leader with Chris Rapozo. Today, my guest is Justin Fisher. He's the Director of Marketing Intelligence at Yeshiva University and Cardozo School of Law. Justin, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Good to have you finally here. We met at EDU Web last week at the conference, and we've had this episode in the works for a while, but we actually settled on a topic last week during a lunch. So the topic today is preparing university students for the jobs of tomorrow. Now, the other caveat to this conversation is that Justin is a marketer at a university, but he was also a professor at the University of Florida Online when I went there. So he was my professor there. I learned a lot from him, and I know he has the perspective from both the marketing side as well as the faculty side. So Justin, university has traditionally been about education citizens, advancing knowledge, and preparing people for careers. Now, with the tuition costs rising and students becoming more focused on ROI, do you think university is still operating under the outdated model?
Thanks for having me, Chris. And just want to jump in before we get started, if you don't mind. You were a top student of mine back in, I believe it was 2022, when I taught at University of Florida during the height of the pandemic. And I think I really enjoyed it. I was fairly new at being an adjunct professor at the time at UF, and I just really enjoyed the experience and enjoyed students like yourself really grasping the knowledge and really thriving and seeing where you are and seeing how you really enjoy the digital marketing and analytics space and higher education marketing. So it was really great to see you at the conference, and I'm glad to finally appreciate you having me on the podcast. I know we've talked about it for quite a bit, but I think looking forward to talking about this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the topic is at hand, because of the class you taught me, I got equipped to start a job at a tech company in Atlanta working in marketing. And a lot of the stuff that I learned during your course got me ready for that job.
That's awesome. I'm so excited to hear that. But yeah, I think to answer your great question there, I think there's still this aspect of, and I thought we talked a bit about this before the discussion about, I'm going to talk about things being in higher education for more than 15 years at least, whether at the university side or on the marketing agency or OPM side. So I have a unique perspective here. I think for this question, there's still this aspect of universities and colleges that have kind of this old school mentality, I believe, of teaching students. Education is super important, but they're teaching them degrees, the cliche of underwater basket weaving degrees and majors, where they're not really learning relevant skills and education that get them ready for a practical or relevant career. So I think what we're talking about this morning is the ability to provide the right training for getting them what they need, especially in today's competitive job market. And we'll even touch on, I believe, how AI is definitely affecting that.
So talking about that, because a lot of the community college these days, they equip people to go into their workforce, blue collar jobs, but some of the university four-year degrees, like you just mentioned, underwater basket weaving, is an extreme, obviously, or ballroom dancing, that sort of stuff, right? That gets people the credit hours to get to that degree, but will it really equip them to, when they get into the job market and they have to perform, that they are ready, or do potential employers have to train them up again from the start? And with AI and all that coming into the fact, these entry-level jobs are being cut, so we want to make sure that the students are on the cutting edge of what is needed by the employers. Talk to me a little bit about non-traditional relevant education programs that four-year universities usually avoid but should adopt.
I think we had this mindset of these liberal arts type fluffy degrees, as I like to call it. But now the way, like we mentioned, about the competitive job market and, whether domestically or international with those students and those recent graduates as well, that, especially in the US, we have to be more competitive. We got to move away from, I think, a lot of these artsy kind of degrees. I think there's still a place sometimes for these like philosophy type degrees to groom the next generation of professors and educators. I know a lot of these students go in at 18, 17, 18 years old, and they have these huge aspirations of what they want to do with their, this might sound controversial during this topic, but I might throw out degrees or jobs that people may actually have. So I apologize for not trying to offend anyone, but someone may have like an anthropology degree or some of these sociology degrees, and they come out thinking they'll do all this great stuff. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, they're working at, a barista at their local coffee shop or, driving Uber or something because they're not able to bring that to the workforce. So I think we need to start moving towards, like I said, like you mentioned, non-traditional. I mean, that's even techie jobs. That's even things think outside the box. Like I think of examples of like pilot schools or construction management, alternative medicine, chiropractor. I mean, things that before that they wouldn't use typical four-year, especially public universities wouldn't even consider. And the reason I say that is like for example, pilot programs. Like there are some universities like Liberty University, University of North Dakota or North Dakota State, and a couple other universities in the U.S. that have a relationship with pilot schools because that's a great career where people can, start and, have a great job at the end of a great career at the end of the day. So I think of it as like career. I consider them like career degrees, a career degree training. So we do need to be thinking outside the box as universities adopt these.
The example you gave with people coming out of college or university with six-figure debt in college loans and then working at Starbucks as a barista or at Uber, that's a problem. It's not a problem to be a barista or an Uber driver or anything like that. The issue is you'll never pay back the tuition. You'll always be underwater with that. And that is the problem. And that is the stewardship we have to keep in mind with these young adults. They have all the dreams and aspirations and then having a rude awakening when they can't get the job that they want, or even if they get a job that they want, those jobs don't nearly pay enough to sustain themselves.
Exactly right.
Georgetown researchers found significant differences in earning and employment outcomes across bachelor degree programs. Surprise, surprise. Should every academic program be expected to demonstrate strong career outcomes, or are there other measures of value universities should prioritize?
I think someone going into an engineering degree, whether it's civil engineering or, mechanical engineering, there's going to be a, intuitive discrepancy between that and, some of the majors we listed before, liberal arts or, sociology or and the like. So I believe, yeah, I think it is something that we need to, universities need to be more, need to be overt in the marketing and in their website and communications with students, explaining like, I mean, I look at myself. I went to college with an wanting to do economics, a 17-year-old, almost 18-year-old kid, to be honest. And I still find economics a fascinating discipline. But as a 40-year-old quote unquote adult at this point, I definitely would probably rethink that in the past and consider something that would be more professional driven, specific to, because then you would be more set for a profession throughout your the rest of your life, to know what you're going into. I think economics is a great degree. I think it makes me think analytically and critically, but I think there's also this aspect of making sure that you're set up for success, not only for where we are with, like I mentioned, the competitive job market, but I'm sure we'll touch on the AI elephant in the room aspect of everything as well.
Definitely want to talk about AI in a little bit. But I first want to talk about a little bit more about the outcomes, the KPIs, and what higher ed marketers, not even the marketers, but more like the leadership celebrates. Universities often celebrate graduation rates or how many people are enrolled in a particular school. And I hear that all the time on LinkedIn or on the conference circuits when I ask them about how's enrollment. It's like we had record enrollment last year, but I also heard from other people that record enrollment doesn't mean much if you don't have the revenue coming in, right? If you throw all sorts of scholarships and discounts at those students, of course, they want to enroll in your school. But if you can't hit the bottom line, if you can't keep the lights on at the end of the day, you're going to have a problem as a administrator at a university, so university often celebrate graduation rates, like I said, but students care more about employment, earning, and career progressions. If you were to design a university dashboard today, what metrics would matter most to you?
No, that's a great point. Yeah, I think you're right. I think on the university side, we have our own metrics, but on the student, maybe you could say a customer side, and you could look at it that way as well.
Mhm.
They have their own inherent metrics of what success is, and I agree. I mean, yeah, maybe we care about admissions rates and tuition, average tuition, and revenue and graduation rates and the like. But yeah, on the other hand, the students are saying, especially the new generation, like what am I going to get at the end of this? And a lot of students we're seeing that enrollment drop off, undergrad and graduate, where they're realizing, is the ROI really there for them? I think it's a matter of average, or what jobs, like what jobs can I get with said degree? What realistic jobs? And then we have to be, with the alumni providing that data back to the university of like, are they actually working in these careers that they were promised, or are they,
Right.
where are they at the end? Because I don't know if there's really that continuity between and the communication between student, graduate, alumni. Are the people bringing that back to the university and finding out from the programs? Are they actually getting the degrees that or getting the careers and jobs that they were expected to get? Actually, when I was looking at a master's degree about over 12 years ago, I remember specifically looking at a University of Florida program living in Florida. It was a master's in information management. And what I liked about the website, I still remember this to this day, is they said, you'll get a master's in information management, and here's the careers that our students have.
Mhm.
Like they're working as, I believe it was like business analyst,
Yeah.
database administrator, and they're actually working at these corporations, whether it was Deloitte or some of, the big four firms and some other aspects. And I remember them even saying, this is our average starting salary of our
Mhm.
student. I think it was at the time was $55,000, and here's what they can over time. This is what they see. So it's showing that progression of realistic salaries of what the alumni are really getting, and showing the jobs and organizations they're working at. They got to be
Mhm.
as transparent as possible. I know it's harder to do with some of these more fluffy degrees, but I think we need to be as honest with our prospective students as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does. I looked at that as well on the University of Florida website when I enrolled there and picked my degree. Even when I went through school there, I always wanted to know, is like, what kind of job can I actually get for this, and which pays the most money? Was I went to school as an adult learner, so that was definitely very important to me, the income aspect of it. I would suggest any university who offers a degree, or obviously everybody offers a degree, but what are the career outcomes? And help the students expand their horizon a little bit. They may go into a degree thinking they want to do one thing, but there may be other options there too they can tap into that may spark their interest and help them grow in their career moving forward. We
Great.
talked a lot, we talked a lot about AI, so let's dive into that. AI is changing many of the tasks that have traditionally helped recent graduates gain experience, but that is going to change. So if entry-level work is evolving, how should universities rethink what students need to learn before graduation?
Bring up the AI aspect of what I alluded to before, was that before there was that competitive ability and advantage that you need to have. Now with AI, um, students really need to be cognizant of, two factors of like, actually, I'd say three factors. What am I passionate about? Like, what do I really want to do to getting up in the morning every day, which is very difficult for a 17,
Mhm.
18-year-old for undergrad, and, as they get even older for graduate school. And then is this degree going to get me to what I want to do? Is this going to, like I mentioned, the professional pathway to where I'm trying to be? And then third, the newest and probably the last year or two we have to really consider is, can AI end up taking my job in the next, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And that's a harder thing to think about. So the example I thought of just now is that um, a good example of this would be, I've always had an interest in computer technology. So maybe I would have been like, oh, computer, what can I do? What can I do to become, somewhere in the computer field? Oh, IT. So maybe computer science would be a great degree. Um,
Yeah.
so that could be a great degree choice. And I would always, 5, 10 years ago, I'd say computer science is an excellent career choice.
Mhm.
Now in 2026, I would actually say computer science is a terrible degree choice because of what's going on with AI. That's something, on a day-to-day basis now that Claude or ChatGPT or name the AI tool of choice has been able to automate a lot of computer science coding, programming, with all the LLM language queries and such. It's a very difficult answer. They need to be like, and it kind of goes back to the other question you asked earlier, Chris, about being universities need to be more flexible and think outside the box of what kind of degrees they go to. And as of now, I'm a big proponent. I wouldn't have said this a few years ago, but I'm a big proponent of tech jobs, hands-on, even I would even say blue collar jobs. Like, let's be more creative here. Let's consider even HVAC repair or
Mhm.
electrician or, think of some of the blue collar stuff that universities and traditional colleges would have stayed away from that would traditionally go to tech schools. They need to because at this, I don't see ability for AI. I don't see like nursing or in the health field. I don't see robot AI nurses just yet. I mean, that could come in the future, but you got to really be thinking, really not just thinking now, but ahead. And it's not an easy answer, but we need to start being more creative.
Yeah, why do you think that is? Why do you think some universities just leave the blue collar education to the technical schools and the community colleges?
That's a great question. I have my thoughts there. I'll try to give a politically correct answer to that. I think there's this aspect, especially the traditional, brick and mortar universities.
Hmm.
This aspect of higher learning and just the aspect
Yeah.
of the whole philosophical. We use the term knowledge worker was always a term that we were aware of. So I think for 100, 200 years, that's always been the mind frame of here within these walls and these brick and mortar old school mentality, we're going to teach philosophy and
Hmm.
politics and very mind specific things, white collar, as you could say, jobs and skills.
Sure.
And then we'll leave these blue collar techie stuff, hands on, getting dirty stuff up to these smaller techie schools and training. But it's like I'm a big proponent of the movie Moneyball, and there's a great clip in there where Brad Pitt's character Jimmy Bean he says the quote was something to the effect of we can't be dinosaurs, right?
Hmm.
We can't be dinosaurs here. We need to really evolve and we need to get with the times, and I think universities and colleges need to as well.
It's hard to let go of the nostalgia for sure. And the things we've always done it this way, sort of things, but what got us here won't get us necessarily there. Now with
And I would
AI just blowing up the way it is and being all over the place. Sure.
So, yeah, I think a really important thing I want to get across is that I think colleges and universities really need to be cognizant of the fact that they're providing practical education and training for the relevant careers that are pretty much impervious to AI, because I
Yeah.
think that's what's really going to be really important in the future.
So, Justin, we were talking about AI a lot. What do you think? Should universities create more AI specific degree programs to get students ready for the workforce of the future, specific AI degrees programs, or should they integrate AI specific learnings into certain subject that they're offering?
I do think that there should be obviously training in AI. In fact, the university I work at, Yeshiva University, the Katz School of STEM and Health, we have a master's in AI, which I think is extremely relevant program based off what's been going on in our society. So
Yeah.
I think it's good to know how to utilize the tool and be able to program it and be able to get the best use and utility out of it. But on the other hand, kind of what I alluded to earlier is still being able to teach those AI resistant type of degrees. So I think it's a combination. I don't think it's like an all or nothing approach. I think it's a matter of just incorporating both of those ways of doing things.
It just depends on really just depends on the subject matter that they're studying in order to be more proficient and just be able to enter the conversation of AI if it comes up during leadership meetings and just be aware of something that is going on in a marketplace and needed for their development. So, We also spent a lot of time talking about what universities need to change when it comes to the future of the workforce and preparing students to be sure that they step on the right foot into the workforce. What is one thing higher education should resist changing, even as technology and the workforce evolves?
I think something that should not change, I think there still is, and I alluded to this originally, was there is still this aspect of we do still has there's still this need of having the place of being a place of learning and conversation and having those philosophical conversations. Because although I do think we need to move towards more of a career and tech approach for degrees, we still think there's still a place for having having the ability to talk philosophically and having that critical thinking discussions that universities have always been a good place for as a good point for curious students to get their minds together and have those deep discussions.
That's right, yeah, and challenge the status quo as well. Not just be blind followers of what they're learning, but making sure that they're being able to think for themselves.
I think of a scene from one of my favorite movies is A Beautiful Mind.
Hmm.
Russell Crowe, famous economist, Dr. John Nash, and he walks into the classroom and he's like he was very excited. He's like, "Welcome all you curious young minds." I think it was just this energy that he brings that having those students that are hungry for knowledge and learning and education.
Yeah.
That's always the great part. That's the piece of to answer your original question. It's the big piece of higher education that we definitely we don't want to lose that or change that aspect.
Let's talk about the future of Justin Fisher. He's becoming a university president. But let's just say, hypothetically, if you became a president of a university tomorrow and you had 1 year to make meaningful improvements, what are some of the things that you would change to make sure that students are better prepared for the jobs of tomorrow?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Well, the first thing I would probably do is without having that experience, I'd probably would try to emulate presidents that are a lot smarter and more successful than me in that regard. And actually, someone I'm really a big proponent of is President Michael Crow from Arizona State.
Mhm.
In fact, I got my master's online there years ago, and I was very impressed with the innovative approach that he brought to online education personally and professionally.
Yeah.
And just his way of, I think his way of, he sees my experience, like understanding what his vision was, being able to partner with those various institutions and be able to partner with relevant organizations, whether it's Starbucks or Uber and some of those big companies, to be able to align with them and allow these workers there to become students at the university.
Mm.
So just I think that whole aspect of recognizing that that is important to partner with these businesses and bring in the relevant workforce to understand how that works, how you can build that like institution, a business relationship, and help really to see what colleges are, what programs are relevant, what kind of certificates might be good, for the industry and such.
You've been in higher education for a while, as you mentioned. Looking ahead, what does the future look like for higher ed?
I think the future, like I mentioned before, I think we really need to evolve. I think it's like I mentioned, like that brick and mortar. There was in the beginning of higher ed when I was there when I started about 2009. So it's 17 years ago already. There was still a bit of a aversion to even going online for a lot of schools.
Yeah.
Like some of the Ivy League schools were still anti going online. In fact, pretty much a lot of schools, a lot of graduate schools and programs were pretty averse to it. Now, pretty much, I said you can pretty much do any degree online. The only ones I don't know if you can. I know they have JD online as well for a law degree, even
Mm.
some very small amount of schools, and then. But I think maybe medical school is like the last frontier. Maybe one day they'll do that one. And I'm not aware of any currently. So I think in this case, they did evolve. They had to evolve in that regard. So I think they need to, when it comes to kind of like what we talked about for this discussion, Having the career specific mindset, be more open to non-traditional educational programs that we've discussed. Open up to more alternative healthcare jobs, blue collar jobs, tech jobs, et cetera, that we've discussed. And they need to be there, or they're gonna see enrollments continue to drop, whether it's students going to some of these trade schools, or students not even enrolling in college and just learning on their own, whether it's through through their phones, right? Or it's
YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube or Reddit. There's a lot of education in the palm of your hands now that Gen Z has that we didn't have when we grew up.
So true. Tell us a little bit about Yeshiva University, Cardozo School of Law, and how people can get in touch with you after this.
Yeah, that's great. So Yeshiva University is a prominently Jewish university in New York City. And our undergraduate students tend to be a religious university. However, our graduate school, as I mentioned before, is more secular. We'll have the CAT School of STEM and Health, like the various degrees that are relevant, I think, whether it's AI, digital marketing and media, and then analytics. We have quite a few interesting programs. And then we have other schools that are very well known, like Furkhoff School of Psychology, Wurzweiler School of Social Work, very highly known, well-regarded colleges. And then we also have Cardozo School of Law, which is a well-regarded law school in New York City, over off of Union Square. And we have actually the start of that's where the Innocence Project started off. A lot of people don't know that. If you're familiar with the Innocence Project, that helps folks that are in prison that are clearly innocent of their crime. It helps them get help from law students to help them get exonerated.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a great place. It's a great, the university is very unique in terms of, like I said, having the very difference between the undergraduate and the graduate schools.
Yeah, that's great. Great stuff. And how can people get in touch with you?
Great. Yeah, they can. You can email me. You can look for me on LinkedIn, Justin Fisher, and I think I have a comma, MSIM. You can find me there. And my work email is justin.fisher@yu.edu, and my personal email is JL as in Lyle Fisher, FISHER 86@gmail.com.
Awesome, man. Justin, really appreciate you being part of the show. I'll be sure to tag you after this so people can find you easily. And I really appreciate your insights and your candor.
Yeah, Chris, it's great. I really enjoyed it. And thanks for having me on. And it's great catching up.
Absolutely. Take care, my friend.
You too.
And that's a wrap for this episode, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Education Marketing Leader Podcast this week. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with your friends and your network. And if you ever thought about starting your own podcast, now that you listen to one and you got inspired, reach out to me via DM. We'd love to help you launch your own. We'll take care of everything for you, the scripting, the strategy, the editing, distribution. All you have to do is show up, connect with your audience, and build your personal brand. So if you're ready for it, let's chat. And for everybody else, we'll see you next time at the Education Marketing Leader Podcast. Take care, friends.